Gary, under 37 minutes until the opening.
Good afternoon. We are live. We're going to do a quick systems check of everything here. Let's make sure we are up and running.
Why don't we send it back over to Megan Carter with the moon?
Get all our audio levels.
To learn more about what happens after Ascent.
Absolutely. I am definitely also getting excited. Things feel like they're starting to pick up a little pace here. A lot is about to happen within the first 10 minutes.
All right, we got the
what happens after those first 10
chat going over here. Here's this.
So we can kind
I'm going to pull that microphone down just a bit.
Our main engine cutoff is going to stand for MECO, and that is essentially where the rocket's job is done, and it is then going to turn the propulsion duties over to our ICPS. That stands for Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage. Don't try and say that too many times fast, but the ICPS is going to be right here, and that's our in-space propulsion.
Let's see if we can get her volume.
After about 50 minutes into launch, it is going
to all the way up. All right.
First burn,
we got that going on. Quick intro video. Let's see this.
Get
this going real quick.
From a lowest point of Earth just a little bit higher into space, and then they are going to conduct that nice path that's going to send them on that nice circular path around the Earth. That's when they're going to start to be able to really check out this spacecraft. The Orion spacecraft is going to be able to, like we talked about, be maneuvered.
99 proceeded. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector grid. Exxon.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Lunar missions, because the ICPS actually has a target on it, and the crew is going to have the opportunity to manually maneuver these spacecraft like we've mentioned and practice those docking maneuvers. Now obviously they will not be docking for this mission, but that is again going to be critical for those lunar missions in the future. Now all right, after that ICPS has separated and they've done that second lap, they're going to conduct 2 more burns. And what these burns are going to do
all right, we are systems go. Everything is up and running. Everything is working well. So we're going to do a quick pause, 3 minutes, and we'll go live at 6 o'clock. Again, that's live at 6 o'clock. I'm going to get a...
And this is that point that is going to take them out
Let's
of
get this going real quick.
Earth orbit into deep space, and it's going to set them on that nice path towards that lunar flyby. And I know we have talked a little bit about why this could be a record-breaking flyby and journey to the moon. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Megan so she can tell us just why.
Yeah, she's talking about the distance record set by the Apollo 13 astronauts in 1970. They were 248,655 miles away from Earth, and this Artemis 2 crew might surpass that on flight day 6 when they fly around the moon by more than 4,000 miles.
Yeah, it's a long ways. It's tough to fathom 250,000 miles from Earth, right? I mean, space, the space station is only 250 miles, and so we're going, I don't know.
99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector good. Exhaust.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Capcom, we're go for landing. Altitude 4200, so you're go for landing. Over. Roger, understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
All right, ladies and gents, we are officially live. We are here. We got our live stream going. We got NASA's live stream going over here. The time is 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are about 24 minutes out from the launch window opening up. I'm gonna pull that out there, pause that. Let's get ourselves situated and ready to go. I'm going to pull in the audio from the live stream right now. Just to make sure we got good levels on all that.
Alexander, NASA Glenn Research Center, Office
All right, it looks like those are good levels. We're going to keep them a little bit quiet for now, keep them in the background as we do a little introduction to this. So I'm going to pull their volume down. Actually, I'm just going to mute them. We'll come back in here in a second. Pull that volume back up. We'll go live to their audio once we get to the actual launch. But we're going to jump in. Let me check that chat real quick and see who we have joining us. A couple people in the chat over there. All right, it looks good. Give me a heads up in the chat if you can hear me. You could hear the computer, the video, everything's running swimmingly. It looks like everything's good on my end, so we should be good to go. Got about a 40-second delay on it, so after I ask a question, I might pause for a little bit. I'm just waiting until I get some responses in the chat, things like that. All right, we got a couple of people popping in there. I know a couple of people, especially on their Chromebooks and things like that, were having trouble chatting. All right, good. I'm hearing it. It sounds like we are all good to go. So let's dive into this. We are, what do we got? We are at L minus 28 minutes right now. So we are 28 minutes out from the launch window. That's basically when the Earth hits the initial position where we can launch this rocket. We're looking at the Artemis 2 program. We're going to do a quick breakdown right now. We have just about a half an hour. So I have a couple of things to talk about here. If at any point you guys have some questions, go ahead and fire them in the chat. And I'll try and answer them as live as possible. Again, there's a little bit of a delay in the chat. So if I don't get to your question right away, feel free to jump or just wait out for me and I'll get you in there. But I want to do a quick breakdown of the mission itself. We've been talking about it a lot in school. So if any of the students are out there, they're going to hear this for the second, third, maybe fourth time. But anybody joining us for the first time right now, this is the Artemis 2 program. So only thing I didn't pull up was the actual mission map. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Let's do the Artemis 2 mission map. All right, let's pull this guy up here. Go ahead and open that up and open it in a new tab. I got 100 other tabs open for us. So the Artemis 2 mission, this is the second mission of the Artemis program. Obviously, Artemis 1 went around the moon. We watched that. We did a live stream of that 3 years ago now. It was 2022. So nearly 4 years ago now. And that went around the moon, but was fully automated. There were no humans on board. So this will be the first time that humans take the leap back to the moon since 1972. 1972 was the last Apollo mission, Apollo 17, which is when we last left the moon. So let's take a quick look at our mission map here. You can see today, number 1 right here is our launch from Cape Canaveral at the Kennedy Space Center. So the SLS, that's the rocket that we'll talk about in just a minute, should be launching off. Again, we're at 28 minutes out. Should be launching off. It'll do its initial orbit of the Earth. They'll be doing a lot of systems checks and things like that as they begin their first 2 orbits of the Earth. After their second orbit of the Earth, they'll be crossing, doing their translunar injection right here, number 9. We follow it down here to the translunar injection. This is where they'll actually light up those engines, blast themselves in the direction of the moon, and they will leave Earth's gravity and move towards the sphere of influence. That's where gravity actually starts pulling things in, the sphere of influence of the moon. So they'll blast off. It's about a 3, maybe 4-day trip, depending on the speeds that they're going at out to the moon. They'll do a lunar flyby. This mission is not landing on the moon. That will be saved for the Artemis 4 mission, hopefully launching in 2028. So this is a check of all the systems. Specifically, the health systems is a big priority for the space launch system. Checking to make sure that the people on board are healthy and sound as they make their way out to the moon. So we'll do the lunar flyby, and then they will make their way back. The Orion spacecraft, which is the actual module that the astronauts will be in, will detach and will return to Earth. It will return in a very similar fashion. Those of you familiar with the Apollo program, it will return in a similar fashion to that, where it has a heat shield on board, and it will use Earth's atmosphere as kind of a parachute, and it will slam into Earth's atmosphere, causing that huge bright ball of fire, and then will land in the, I believe the target is the Pacific, yeah, right here. The target is out in the Pacific Ocean, where there will be Navy ships waiting to collect them. So let's take a look at some of those spacecraft that I was just talking about. Again, that's the mission. It is a lunar flyby with lots of science and lots of testing equipment on board. So I got about 1 million tabs open here, a lot of them covering some questions that the students were asking and that other people have asked me. So let's start jumping through these. And we're going to take a look first at the SLS, the Space Launch System. That's actually the rocket that they'll be launching on. So this is a detailed analysis of it. We're not going to get too much into it. It gets a little complicated, but we'll talk about it more when we get to the launch pad, and we'll talk a little bit about it. A couple of things for you to note. Number one, we got our solid rocket boosters. Those are going to be the big white boosters on the sides of the spacecraft itself. So you can see you got one over here and you got one on the other side. So twin pairs of solid rocket boosters. Then down the middle, the big orange tube that you see is actually made up of 2 separate parts. We have our liquid hydrogen tank, and then we have our liquid oxygen tank. Those are going to be the 2 main jet fuels. Once the SLS gets up further into space, that is when they will launch. They will go off. Excuse me. So we have our RS-25 engines there. The solid rocket boosters will detach earlier on. We'll see them detach. I think it's a T+2 is the solid rocket boosters actually detach, so 2 minutes after takeoff. And then the main stage here, the liquid fuel tanks, will detach later on, and we'll see those usually from cameras on board the inside. But let's talk about the crew module. So this whole ship here is mostly fuel. The vast majority of the ship is fuel. So all of this here is fuel just to get them into space. Then once they're in space, they use this little itty bitty fuel system up here. It's called the ICPS, the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage. That's a mouthful, but you can see that here, significantly smaller. And then above all of that, the only thing that we're really sending into space right now is this teeny tiny little crew module here. And that's where all of our astronauts currently are. They're in their seated configuration. They're running through some systems check. We'll check in on them in just a minute. But that's it. So let's jump into that. That is known as the Orion spacecraft. Here's some pictures of it from the outside, and I got a good breakdown. So this is the Orion spacecraft right here. These are all the different parts. We have the launch abort system, which we'll talk about when we get to the launch pad. And then we have the crew module. That's where our astronauts are actually staying. So this whole system is built just to send this teeny little bitty thing here into space, which is pretty wild. All of that fuel, all of that energy, 8.8 million pounds of thrust are going to be blasting this thing into space. And it's all just for this little tiny crew module right here. This is a look inside. So this is looking down at the astronauts. We have, it looks like a technician is sitting in the seat right here. So we have 4 seats. There are 4 people on board this, and the seats are kind of sitting on top of each other. So it looks like they're kind of hanging on top of each other, but we're actually looking down at the rocket right now. So the back of that individual sitting there is actually aimed towards the ground. So he's looking straight up at the sky. So when we see our astronauts, the cameras will be level as we are here on Earth. And you'll notice that they're all looking upwards. It's because they're laying backwards. You want your back to be to the rocket because this thing is going to slam into them. So just like sitting in a car, you don't want to be sitting upside down or sideways in a car as it's making some strong movements. So again, that's a look inside it. It's pretty much all the astronauts and everybody we've been listening to today have talked about how big this thing is. So not exactly enormous, but it is significantly larger than past spacecraft. So there were 3 members aboard all the Apollo missions. This has 4, but you can see there is some room over on the sides here. We were also told that when they get into space, one of the first things they'll do is actually move some of this stuff out of their way, because they don't really need to be, there's not going to be a whole lot of strong, jerky motions once they're in space. It's more smooth and calm with our propulsion. So they'll be able to move a lot of this stuff out of their way and make it more of a living area for the next 10 days. Here's a picture of all of them in their seats. So we can see Christina Cook right here. Victor Glover, our pilot, is going to be on that far left side. And then we have our commander, Reed Weissman, right here. And then that's Jeremy Hansen, our Canadian, joining us for this mission right now. So that is the spacecraft. That is the propulsion system. Let's jump back into our live stream and see what they're showing us here. So it looks like we just got, oh, we're not even live. Let's jump forwarding. Oh, yeah, let's go live here. All right. So looking at the spacecraft here, I'm going to go full screen for this. We can see all of those things that we just talked about. So again, at the top here, we have the Orion spacecraft, where the crew members actually are, is right inside here. So they're just inside this little capsule right here. We have that giant orange system. That's going to be our liquid fuel. And then we have our solid rocket boosters on each side right here. Those 2 white things that you can see here. This is the gangway that they walked out on. So the entrance to the Orion module is just behind my mouse right there. And then we have a look inside over here. So we can see this is Jeremy Hansen right here. He has the iPad, or the tablet in front of him. He's running a lot of systems checks. That's directly connected. So you'll see him doing a lot of work on that. He's a mission specialist. So he's running a lot of the background checks with NASA right now. Just above him, we can see the feet of Commander. And, oh, we just blurred out right there. All right, it looks like they're getting a little lag on their feed, but no big deal. We'll jump back in there. So that's the commander up there. We're getting a good look at the end. Oh, they're jumping around. All right, excellent. This is what I wanted to show you. So here's the rocket on the pad. You can see that giant orange liquid system right there. And then we have 2 solid rocket boosters on each side. A couple of things that you're going to notice throughout this. We have lightning strike towers all around it. You'll also see some wires. If we get a good enough shot, you'll see a bunch of wires dangling around here. Florida is well known for its adverse weather conditions, so they really don't want a stray lightning bolt. The rocket has been sitting on the pad for about 4 days now, maybe even more than that. And they don't want a stray lightning bolt hitting this thing. It's full of fuel, obviously extremely combustible. So they have these massive charged lightning towers, and they are just a magnet for lightning. So any lightning will strike them, be discharged into the ground, and everything is safe and good. Right behind it, you'll see a water tower. Right before launch, one of the things that we're going to see is a massive, absolutely massive dumping of water. So they pour water all over the launch pad. And what that's going to do is when these rocket boosters go off, they are so insanely hot that they can actually melt the concrete underneath them. So that water will act as kind of a buffer, keeping everything cool, relatively cool. So a lot of that is going to burn off as steam. So some of that huge plume, and we are going to see a huge plume coming out when this thing takes off. A lot of that is just going to be water vapor. So it's just water vapor being boiled off and being shot out to the sides. So we'll see a massive dump of water. That's all going to come out of this water tower right here. And then down behind it, you'll see a little dome-shaped building. That is where they store some of the liquid fuel. The fuel is not actually stored on board the spacecraft itself. They fuel it up before they take off. So it's fully fueled right now, but in order to fuel it up, they keep the fuel nearby, but to pressurize all the systems, they do it from the distance. So I got some people blowing up my chat over here. So we're going to do a couple of shout outs. To see Mr. Dante's in the house, a couple of other people in there, some names. See, we got a Lieberman in the house, a couple other people in there. But we just got to the T-10. So I did mention to my class, I'm going to mention this live now, that the T-10 marker is a big marker where they take a pause. So the T- clock is not a running clock. It's just to let us know when they're going. All right, we got a bunch of people in here. Nick's in there. Good to see you, Nick. So we're at the T-10. DJ's in the house. What is up, Miss DJ. Good to see you. Look at me. I'm rocking my headphones today just for you. So we're at the T minus 10 mark. We can see this is one of the observation areas right here. Savannah's here. Love it. So we're at one of the observation areas right here or right now, and you can see a lot of people getting set up. That massive clock that you'll probably see. We'll probably be able to see the launch from here, but we'll see where they jump the cameras to. So I'm going to fire the audio on real quick. We'll hear some of the systems updates and kind of see what's going on here. So let's go.
I'd love to ask KUS and see if they also lost lock with the vehicle for any extended amount of period.
Fire this up, and I'm going to turn the audio up for you guys to make sure you can hear them. It's not a constant chatter from them.
While we're doing that, these are 1/10 hertz measurements, correct? So we would have had to lose it for over 10 seconds to get a second sample.
So I'm going to pull that up there. Just let me know in the chat if you can't hear their background chatter. Obviously not while I'm blathering over it. But.
Yeah, so from our perspective, the allowance is effectively up to 30 seconds, up to 3 samples based on the 1/10 hertz. This is not an LCC violation, I believe.
Yes, sir. I would agree with that at this point. Copy that.
We're checking with KUS on 232. I don't think they have 212 access. We're trying to verify, but.
All right, so it sounds like we got some stuff going on in the background.
Lock as well. About 2 seconds.
Okay. And I guess for both KUS and COSE, do we have lock now?
That's affirmed. We do have lock for COSE.
Yeah, so from the integration console perspective, we did have a temporary loss there within the allowable, and per the requirement, let's go.
This is Houston Flight. We have lock and we have good telemetry here in GSE.
All right, everything we're hearing is good news right now.
They have good lock now. So with all of that, OSC, then are we in a go configuration per your LCC?
Yes, sir. Recommendation would be go.
Okay. LP, you concur with that?
Yes, sir. LP concurs go.
And Launch Director?
Yes, sir. Launch Director concurs go.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just verify everybody has everything else complete, Launch Director, and if we do, we'll be ready to pick up the poll at that time, unless there's something else that you're aware of.
No, sir. Let's verify all our work is complete, and I would like one last check of our constraints list.
All right, so everything we just heard, they mentioned things are...
That is affirmed, sir.
Okay, so you only open up.
Let's mute them real quick. Everything we just heard says systems are a go. It sounds like there was some sort of disruption, but they have certain allowable limits that disruptions are acceptable as long as it's within their limits. So we should see that T-minus clock starting up pretty soon. We just heard from a bunch of the commanders on the ground saying everything is a go. So we want to hear go and nominal are going to be our two favorite words for now. A go means obviously that we are a go, and nominal means everything is working according to plan. So as soon as that clock starts talking, we're going to be starts ticking, we're going to be at our T-minus 10 mark. So that's 10 minutes until launch. We have the ground launch sequencer, which once they hit that T-minus 10, everything is basically automated at that point. There's not a lot of hands-on. Everybody's sitting back and the computers are running the vast majority of the stuff. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on that, but pretty much from there, everything should go according to plan. It should be a straight countdown. If they need a hold, they will put a hold on to double check some systems, or if anybody's seeing something that they're not a big fan of. But once that T-minus clock starts going, everything should be good. So I'm going to talk you through what we should see from the T-minus 10 countdown. There's a couple of checkpoints that we're looking for. And then also once it launches, we call that the T+ time. And there's a couple of things that we're going to be looking for in that T+. So keep an eye while I'm talking in that corner for the T-minus 10. And hopefully we'll see that start ticking down. I'll put the audio back on for us. But again, we have the T-minus 10. That is when the ground launch sequencer starts up. That's the computer basically running the program. We got a really good look at inside the headquarters here, so you can see all the work that goes in behind this. We have dozens of people. Bob the Builder wants a shout out over there. So Bob the Builder, here's your shout out. So we got a T-minus 10 is going to be that ground launch sequencer. At the T-minus 6, we're going to hear them go for the switch to internal power. Right now, they are connected to the ground. So they actually have a bunch of wires connecting the ship, keeping the power going to the ship. But they will switch over to their internal power. So they are running, the rocket is totally on its own. T-4, we're going to get the core stage auxiliary power unit. Again, that's part of the electrical system running on the ship. Then we got T-33 seconds. This is a big one that we're looking for. So at T-33, we should hear confirmation that the ALS system is running. That's the automated launch sequence or system. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but that means everything is totally automated at this point. Their hands are off. Unless there is something hugely wrong, they will not stop it. So that 33 seconds is basically the go, no go for everything. At the 6-second mark, T-6 seconds, we're going to see the engines start up. When the engines start up, the rocket is not going to move. You'll see it will stay in place. It is locked to the ground. So for 6.36 seconds, those engines are going to be blasting at full power, creating 8.8 million pounds of thrust, and this thing is going to be held to the ground. At the T-0 mark, at liftoff, they will actually come off, they will unhook the hooks, and then this thing will start sailing up into the sky. One of the first things that we're looking for when they take off at T+90 seconds, we're going to hear max Q. Max Q is the most crucial part during liftoff. So as they lift off, they're going to be punching through the atmosphere at insane speeds. So insanely high speeds, punching through the atmosphere. It is going to vibrate the whole spaceship like crazy. Once they get past max Q, that's max pressure on the whole spaceship. Then the air will start to thin out, things will start to calm down, and we can start taking a breath. That's when we're really past the hardest parts of this, and we can start kind of breathing regularly. Then we have at 2 minutes, those solid rocket boosters are going to branch off. And then our next check-in will be at T+820, and that is when the core stage, that's that big orange piece of the rocket, is going to break off. And at that point, we'll be well within the realms of space. We'll be able to see Earth in the background. We'll see the curvature of Earth, all that good stuff. So very, very exciting. We're still holding at that T-10 right now. The launch window is just about to open. Again, it's 6:24 is when the window opens. So it should be opening any second. And I got a couple of questions in the chat, so I want to get to those. I have one question from somebody that asked, do you think they're scared? So this is a big question that astronauts are asked a lot of the time. Every astronaut on board this spacecraft right now has done some pretty incredible things. 3 out of 4 are Navy astronauts. We have a Royal Canadian Air Force pilot. So we have a Royal Canadian pilot, and then we have 2 U.S. Air Force, I believe they're 2 U.S. Navy pilots, possibly an Air Force in there. I apologize if I can't remember which one, but they're all pilots. So they've all flown at extreme speeds in extreme aircraft. They've done crazy things. The only person who is not a pilot is Christina Cook, and she has been on more space launches than any of them. So she spent a lot of time in space. She set the record for the longest female mission on the International Space Station. So a lot of them have done this or something very similar to this before. Does that mean you're not scared? I've been on 100 roller coasters in my life, and I still get the heebie-jeebies every time I get on one. So I'm sure there are some nerves up there, but I think it's probably a lot more nervous excitement rather than fear. Because again, a lot of them have done this before. Nothing as intense as this, but it's nothing new. So I don't know if I would say scared, but more just nervous excitement. So we're still sitting at that T-10. So I want to take a look. We were talking, one of the students asked me what happens when what happens with the airplanes? How do they get the airplanes out of the way? How do they make sure they don't hit a plane? So we're going to jump over to our ADS-B, and anybody who's been in my class knows I love some good ADS-B. So this shows us the active flights in the area. So this is earlier today. Actually, let's go way earlier today. And we can see just how many flights are in the area. So you can see all these planes flying around in the area. And then if we jump forward, they have done a temporary flight restriction. So no planes can fly within 40 miles of Cape Canaveral. So we have Cape Canaveral right here in the center area. And you'll notice not a lot of planes go directly over it anyway. You can see some flying off in the ocean, things like that. but then we'll jump forward to right now. We should be at the 6, 10, 22, 22, 25 is what we should be at right now. So you can see the temporary flight restriction went into effect. We go past this. There we go. So temporary flight restriction, so you can see that there are no aircraft in this immediate area. And when this launches, it's going to be launching and heading out into the ocean. So you can see there are no airplanes out in its way. Now, it's going to be way, way beyond where the airplanes are very, very quickly. This thing takes off super fast and goes super high. So it's way higher than, I don't know what this is. Take a look at what that is. Well, that's an interesting looking aircraft. We might have to do a little research on that guy. That thing looks pretty cool. Anyway, so this thing is going to be really high, way beyond the height of airplanes. It looks like we got some people that may be in Florida right now taking a look for this. So if you haven't already looked, there is a visibility map. I didn't open it because I didn't know anybody would be joining us from Florida, but visibility map, Artemis 2. And let's go to the images here. So you can get, here you go, when you will see the Artemis. So pretty much anywhere in Florida. Let's open that in a new page. Open link in new tab. There we go. Nope, not the link. I just want the image. There we go. All right. So you have the, this is the view from around Florida. So just about anywhere in Florida, including Savannah. I think we have a Savannah in the audience. Just about anywhere in this circle, you will be able to see it. And then this is how soon after liftoff. So just a reminder that we are on a delay. We're on about a 40-second delay just from my stream. So if you are watching this thing live, keep your eyes out. You may want to watch, just keep your eyes on the sky the whole time because we're about 40 seconds delayed. So if you are close to the Orlando, even the Tampa area, it's going to be up in the air before we even see it launch on the stream. The stream has a delay to it. So just keep that in mind. Keep your eyes on the sky, but this is where you can see it from. We do have a student who's flying into, I believe she's flying into Miami right now. And she's hopefully going to try and send us an email with some videos of it if she sees it. I also have a friend down in Florida who might be sending me some videos as well. So if we get those videos, I'll put them up here, but this is when you will be able to see it. So we have the no-fly zone, obviously, so the rocket doesn't hit any airplanes on its way up. That would be catastrophic. Let's jump back in. We're still holding at that T-10, so I'll jump back into the audio to get an idea for what's going on. But right now, I want to jump into the second most answered question, which is, what are they eating? What do you eat when you are up there? So I'm going to go in right here. We got Artemis 2, and this is a little bit of their menu. So the menu is not as limited as I would have thought it was. It's a 10-day mission, so you're not going to starve to death or anything like that, but they do have a good amount of interesting food. So a lot of the stuff is going to be freeze-dried. That's where we are, dehydrated, where they remove the water. Water is extremely heavy, so it's very difficult to send water up into space. So if we look, whoa, that's too big. If we look here, we have all of their beverages. A lot of these probably come in powdered form and they add water while they're up there. But we have coffee, we got green tea, some basics. Then we got these like chocolate breakfast and vanilla breakfast drink. Most likely some type of like protein shake, a lot of nutrients, a lot of vitamins, so that they're nice and easy to go. Somebody asked how they eat out of these and how they drink out of these. Everything comes in packages and packets because you don't want anything floating around. So you don't want to open the pantry and have a bunch of Pop-Tarts come floating out into your face. So everything is very tightly sealed, stored away. Space is very limited when you're on a spacecraft. It doesn't have a lot of space. The space is outside of it. So everything is packed very tightly and very neatly. And then you can take everything out, rehydrate it, heat it up. They have different ways of heating things. I'm not positive what this spacecraft has. Some have different chemical ways that they can do it, and some have little microwave type devices on board. Very, very small and compact, but something that they can heat it up. So I don't know exactly what Orion has, but there's different ways to heat it up. You can see we have our tortilla count. Tortillas are a very common food in space because there is, because they don't crumble. They don't make a lot of pieces. So you don't want to be eating crackers, chips, pretzels, things like that. You get pieces floating all over the place. They end up in vents, they end up in electronics, and you end up with a lot of problems. So tortillas are really good. They don't tear apart, or excuse me, they don't crumble apart. They can tear them, and then you can dip them in all these other delicious things, your strawberries, your strawberry jam, your honey, your almond butter, all that good stuff for a good little snack. And then we're advertising our Canadian products because they have a Canadian on board for the first time ever. So this is the first time that a Canadian will go outside of low Earth orbit and into deep space. So this spacecraft is going significantly further than any ever had in the past. That's enough about food. Let's jump back in over here. I want to see, I had a question pop up. Why is there a delay? So there's multiple delays. First, we're watching a live stream from NASA. So they're going to have a delay on their end because the way they film it and then the way they're producing everything, their producers have a little bit of a delay so that they can edit everything in, put all these windows that we're looking at and all that in there. Then there's a 40-second delay. We timed it during our test. So from the time that I'm talking to the time that you guys are hearing me is about a 40-second delay. And that has to do with YouTube and its processing. So this information that I'm sending to you right now goes to a bunch of Google servers out there, and then goes out to you guys on your tablets and your iPads and your phones and all that stuff. And it's about a 40-second delay in between there. So from when I'm talking to when you guys go, or to when you hear it, is actually about 40 seconds. So I see the questions pop up, I start answering them, and then I see your answers pop up, or see your responses pop up in the chat, which is pretty funny because the chat is live. So the chat is instant, but me talking is not. So for example, I have Liam just came in and said, it's Liam. He just popped in and said that, but you guys won't hear this for about 40 seconds. Peter is not in the room right now. If he comes down, I'll try and get my wife to bring him down and I'll show you guys him, but he's not in the room with me right now. He had a big day at school and he is snoozing on the floor upstairs. So the clock just started. We are at T-minus 9 minutes. So I'm going to turn the audio back on here so we can listen in. Again, we are listening for that T-minus 6 minutes for the switch to internal power. That's the next one, the next check-in that we're listening for.
Vector control actuator test.
Oh my goodness, we were behind. We're at the T-minus 2 minute mark. Big jump here. I apologize. T-minus 2 minutes here. We were a little bit behind on our stream. I must have clicked it on the outside. So we're T-minus 2 minutes, 38 seconds here.
One of them built from
Final countdown going on here. I'm going to hold off on the questions right now. I'll try to get to some more questions after launch. But right now, we're going to watch everything going on here, and I'm going to try and talk you through everything we're seeing. Right now, they're testing the gimbals on the rocket engines. So the rocket engines are actually movable, and you will be able to see, it helps it to navigate. So they're testing all those out right now, so should be good.
Stage of the rocket to internal, taking ground power away, and now going to battery power.
All right, so we're fully on battery power, so the rocket is fully powering itself right now. That's the go for internal power right there.
Power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery. Same milestone.
Getting a little nervous here.
Stage coming up at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds.
T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds.
The Artemis 2 crew is 248,000 miles away from the moon, and if all goes well, they will fly by it in 6 days.
All right, so we are now 90 seconds out.
PLS is go for core stage to internal power.
We got go for core stage, internal power.
Core stage, which houses 3 flight computers, is now on its own.
As it goes to launch, you'll see everything that's connecting it to the tower over there. All of those will drop and swing away.
Because there's no more margin on these batteries. So we would have to recycle back to T-minus 10 to recharge if we had a hold.
All right, so hopefully no holds going on. You also see some sparks flying underneath right before they go to take off.
Right now the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds.
All right, so there's that 33 seconds call, which is when they're going to start the automated launch system.
ALS. The rocket will count itself down, but honor any holds that could come from the ground. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary.
All right, so once the rocket gets airborne, they'll actually start communicating with Houston.
The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers.
All right, here we go. This is it. There's no stopping it now. We're at T-minus 33 seconds, and it's fully on the automated launch system. So let's keep an eye underneath there. You're going to start to see those things launch, start to light up. The sparks going out. The water will start to flow. It looks like the water just dumped. And here comes the countdown. There's the sparks flying. Here we go. There's no going back now. We got the core stage engines are ignited.
Booster ignition.
And there it goes. She's going up.
The crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
All right, we got the live stream back. It looked like we lost a little bit there, but she's going up. There it is. So we're watching it from the distance. We have takeoff.
Houston now controlling.
There it is. We should get a live update on the speed of the spacecraft. This thing is cruising right now. You can see clear skies in the background. We got full engines burning. Everything is looking awesome right now. You can hear the burning of the engines. We're probably 6 miles away from this thing right now, and it is ripping through the sky. Getting a little too excited here. I'm gonna calm down. All right, so there it is. You can see how the plume turns and curls. A rocket launch isn't all about getting directly up. They actually want to get to the side pretty strongly. We're getting a lot of weird... What do we got here? There we go. All right, so you can hear the crowd cheering over there.
Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
All right, we're just approaching max Q, so that's the call right there. That's the max pressure situation. That's when the aircraft is at its strongest.
Have you the same?
You can hear those engines again. 8.8 million pounds of thrust pushing this thing into space right now.
Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour.
Sorry, they just gave this speed, but I totally missed it. I was too excited. All right, we should be coming up on that max Q any second now.
1 minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time, standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation, expected at the 2 minute 9 second mark.
All right, we may have missed the max Q because that was a call for afterwards.
Throttle down. Confirm separation.
All right, there's the solid rocket boosters. There they go. So they separated. You see those 2 solid rocket boosters still burning. The engines are still burning on that. They're weakened, but they still burn, and those will fall away. Those are actually going to fall into... Oh my gosh, there's the view from the rocket. Unbelievable. So we have the... I don't think the rocket is causing any rain, but we have those 2 solid rocket booster engines broken off. Those are going to drop into the ocean there.
Elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. Thrusters on Integrity and upper stage confirmed in a ready state ahead of service module fairing separation.
We're not getting a lot of live feeds from the rocket. Normally we can see actually on board the rocket, so I don't know if they're having a trouble of streaming that footage. Here we go. There is some footage from the rocket. You can see how high we are. You can see the curvature of the Earth in the background. There is the outside container. So at this point, we don't have to worry about aerodynamics. We are now outside of the... yeah, you can see the pieces coming off of it there. So we're outside of the atmosphere enough so that we can remove those parts. We cannot see it from New Jersey.
Copy, jettison. Team Eco 8+02.
All right, so there's the plume coming. So if you are in Florida, I urge you to go outside right now and look. No matter where you are, it's going to be out towards the east. So if you look out towards the east, you'll be able to see it again. You'll be able to see it. We now have thermal imagery. So when we go to that black image, that's the thermal imagery, and we're seeing the engine itself, the heat from the engine.
Cook and Hansen cross the boundary to space with good comm checks. GPS signals acquired after last jettison, now working on internal checks to verify accuracy.
So everything is going exactly according to plan. They have crossed over the space into space.
Time of MECO.
And now we're getting some calls from them. Hopefully we'll start getting some footage from on board. It looked like they were having trouble streaming that earlier. Sounds like everything's getting quiet. So again, the rocket is now in space. It is, I didn't hear the altitude of where exactly it is, but it's up there. All right, here we go. Some really good footage from space right there. Again, you can see that the latency, you can see all that lag and everything going on. So it sounds like they may be struggling to try and get that footage in.
Beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it.
There's the, that was the commander of the spacecraft talking to Houston. He said they can see the moon.
Reed Wiseman confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software finishes internal checks and sends to navigation channels.
Integrity, 3 engine press.
All right, so we're at the T+5. We're going to wait for that T+8 minutes mark. And that's where they're going to drop the,
time into the Artemis 2 mission at this point.
That's where they're going to drop that main stage, that giant orange tube that we were looking at earlier. So normally we got a lot of footage from space right here, so I'm not sure if they're having issues with their stream, from space live. It could be weather in space. We get solar weather, stuff from the sun, things like that. Unfortunately, I think if you didn't see the rocket yet, the plume might still be there. You could still see that smoke plume, but the rocket is long gone. It is up in space. It is going to start orbiting. Oh, I just got an email.
Looking good at 6 minutes.
I got pictures of the rocket. I'm going to email them to myself right now. We have footage of the rocket taking off. I got to send this to my email and I'll open it up for you guys.
And engine performance. Booster officer will soon report the shutdown plan to flight.
Got that one. All right, so they're going to go to the animation here. I'm hoping that they'll jump in, but we got the speed, we got the distance from Earth, and then you can see the core stage there, the giant orange piece. That's going to break off pretty soon. I'm going to email these to myself so I can bring these up.
Integrity copies nominal. Shutdown.
Everything sounds like it's going according to plan. Yes. Send it to me.
6 minutes, 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at 8 minutes, 2 seconds into the flight.
Come on. All right, let's do save. Save both of these.
All right. 7 minutes of mission elapsed time.
All right, so we're getting some good footage. It looks like the sun is in the background of these, so it's blurring out a lot there. You can see how bright that sun is.
Milestone at the 7-minute, 30-second mark. Now 84 miles in altitude, 650 miles downrange, traveling more than 15,000 miles per hour.
So 15,000 miles per hour for this.
Open.
We're going to send these to myself. And we'll open these when we get a chance.
The window is now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Still following nominal ascent at this time.
All right, so they just said the window is open for an abort. So as they do their first orbit of Earth, if anything goes wrong, they can always abort and actually
10 seconds remaining,
splash down in the ocean like they're going to at the end of the mission.
System core stage. Standing by for confirmation of MECO and core stage separation.
All right, so I do have the videos here, but we're going to keep an eye on this because we want to see this core stage separate, and then we'll, not videos, excuse me, I got pictures of the launch itself from one of my friends in Florida. All right, there's the core stage separation. This is awesome. So this is on board, so we can see.
Nominal MECO, core stage separated.
Excellent. So that core stage just separated away. Again, that's the giant orange piece. And now the only thing under control is the Orion spacecraft, which is on the very tip there. You can see the Orion spacecraft at the very end. And then that interim cryogenic phase, which has some propulsion in it, which is just below the Orion spacecraft. And that's what's actually going to help them make their way to the moon.
Separated, done its job. The Space Launch System upper stage, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or ICPS, still attached to the Orion spacecraft.
All right, so there's the ICPS. That's the cryogenic phase, and that's where they will actually burn
integrity crew of
the push out. So hopefully we get some live footage from inside
around the Earth at the beginning of
the spacecraft, or even some good footage from outside the spacecraft looking back at the Earth. And then as soon as I get a chance, I will put the footage up here.
Houston, looking ahead to PRM.
Oh my gosh, big shout out from Miss Coulter. Just sent me a picture. I didn't even reach out to her. She just sent me a picture. Looks like she's out on a golf course. And she just sent me a picture. I'm going to email that one to myself too. Of the rocket launch. She saw it as well.
Now reminding the crew that the perigee raise maneuver time of ignition is as expected prior to booster ignition. That time being 49 minutes, 50 seconds of mission elapsed time.
So we're going to put these pictures up for you guys in just a second. There. Let's see if I can open this in a new tab. All right, so we're not getting a lot of live footage from the spacecraft itself, which is interesting at this point because normally we get a lot of onboard footage. I'm not seeing any, but we did hit that core stage separation.
Good. Neds deploy.
Everything is good. Everything sounds great, so we're very excited about that.
Copy that, Stan. Good, Neds.
I wish we could see some more footage here.
And Integrity Houston for PWD setup. Just a reminder, halfway open on the secondary.
All right, so we're going to jump out of here real quick. I'm going to show you some of the shots that I was sent. So we have, let's see, is this going to drop into here? Oh, it's going to be its own new tab. All right, so here we go. So this is from my neighbor who's down in Florida right now. You can see the rocket streaking across the sky.
Conversation between Capcom Stan Love and Commander Reed Wiseman. Already passing some milestones. We have a good nozzle extension deployment system.
All right, everything sounds like it's going well. So, so there you can see it launching, streaking across the sky, and then we have another picture here.
Flight that is Ascent.
A few seconds later, there it is again, streaking across the sky, coming up out of those clouds and heading out over the ocean. And then our last one looks like it's behind a screen door. Not the greatest of pictures, but we love it. Look at that over the field. You can see it. So they got to see a lot of it launch from all the way down there and streaking across the sky. And it looks like it drew a bit of a crowd. I did talk to a coworker today who said they live in Florida, and a lot of the people who live there, they don't even go out to watch these things because they're so common. There's so many launches. They don't even go out to look at them anymore. So a lot of people in Florida, it's just a normal day for them. We're over here getting a little too excited. And for the average Floridian, it's just, just another day with another launch. So really cool stuff, though. I'm going to jump back into questions real quick. Let's see what we got here. See what we got. I'm trying to go back to where I could see it. It looks like, yeah, it looks like we're back here. We got All right, let's see. Show us in class tomorrow. Yes, I will show some of this in class tomorrow. If the rocket goes near a star, do they just go through it, or is the star hard and they will collide? So remember that stars, the nearest star is the sun, which is 300 million miles away, and the moon is only 300,000 miles away. So they're not even close, like nowhere close. This thing isn't going near any stars. The closest star outside of our solar system is 4 light years away. So we would need, traveling at the speed of light, about 4 years for this thing to get there. So they're not concerned about hitting any stars. All right. There's somebody out there. I don't think anyone knows who it is. No one knows. Just something else. It looks like Tommy might have heard it. He said he got flashbanged. I'm guessing that means he heard this thing. It's super loud. I don't know how far he is from it, but he said he couldn't see it, so I don't know. Will they get pictures of different sides of the moon? Absolutely. A big part of this mission is actually just for them to take pictures of the moon. So they're going to go out there. They have a whole bunch of cameras on board, and they're all trained in how to take pictures of super bright objects. because it's kind of difficult to do. It overpowers a lot of lenses. It's like going out and trying to take a picture of the sun. It blurs out your whole picture. So they're all trained in how to take those images. So yes, they're going to get pictures of all sides of the moon, including the back side of the moon, commonly known as the dark side of the moon, although it's not always dark back there. It's only dark about 50% of the time. They're still going to study radiation in space. Yeah, so a big part of this is they're studying radiation and its effects on the human body. So they want to know what actually happens to people when they are outside of our magnetosphere, which protects us. So, all right, let's see. Bunch of people watching, literally in Florida. How much longer to get to the moon? So they're going to do 2 orbits of the Earth, and then they're going to start making their way out to the moon. So it's going to take about 5 days for them to get to the moon. So we're not going to stay live that whole time. I got to get to school tomorrow. You guys got to get to bed. But it'll take about 5 days for them to get to their lunar flyby, and then another 5 days for them to get back. So it's a total 10-day mission. Don't ask, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to ask. Don't worry about your username. All right, a lot of people shouting out their names here. Somebody yelling at me to look in the chat. I'm looking in the chat. Calm yourself. All right. ONR, how long are you going to talk about this on the plane next week? I hope nobody's sitting anywhere near me on the plane next week, because I will be discussing this the entire time. So fasten in your safety belts. Anyone who's sitting near me, I will be talking the entire time. All right, we're going to jump back into the audio here. It looks like we've made it past all of our major checkpoints, so we're probably going to check out pretty soon. But let's jump in and see what they have to say over here at NASA. And then if I have no updates for you, we will officially sign off. Again, we had a successful launch. Artemis 2 on its way to the moon. And this is, again, a huge step forward in building that lunar base and hopefully opening a gateway to the rest of our solar system for exploration.
To the moon.
And so we can continue to watch Christina, Reed, Victor, and Jeremy on their way now to the moon in Earth's orbit and awaiting the next in-flight milestones, deploying Orion's solar arrays. So why don't we get back in with Mission Control and Gary.
All right, so it looks like they're going to jump back into Mission Control. We'll hang out for a minute because it does sound like we're going to get some...
in the action. It is a long day. They have a number of procedures they need to get to immediately in their timeline.
And Integrity Houston, cross-tie is on board per the ETSI-DEM.
All right, so I'm hoping to get some footage from inside. I'd really like to see the astronauts inside the spacecraft right here. Go ahead and open this all the way up.
I'm referring to flight controllers here initially.
They have those solar panels that should be opening up pretty soon.
Of the batteries aboard the Orion spacecraft, allowing for an even distribution of power.
All right, Kate, you asked 47 times.
Flight control teams that took.
Here's your shout out. Kate is here, everybody. In case you didn't know, Kate is here. She's only said it 26 times.
As you see, passing 18 minutes of mission elapsed time. The Orion spacecraft integrity and the interim cryogenic propulsion system.
Oh my gosh.
Tail to sun.
Owen is also here.
It is in this orientation.
Everybody wants to know.
Integrity anywhere until not momentary prompt caution.
All right, so here's a good look inside Houston. But this is the Mission Control Center at Houston. You can see, look at all those screens with all that information. I thought I had a lot set up here. I got 2 screens going on, microphones, the whole thing. That is wild looking right there.
And Reed Wiseman verifying what is being routed to his displays aboard Integrity. Propulsion engineer confirming that no action is needed at this time. They're pressing through with their nominal procedures to prepare for the perigee raise maneuver. And of course, the solar array wing deploy ahead of that. The solar wing deploy is a critical milestone. We'll continue to have our coverage follow the mission until that deployment. Successful launch is just the beginning. The deployment of the
So it said the solar array deployment sounds like it might not be coming up for a while. So we're going to go to
power is a significant milestone and says to the flight control teams that we will continue on today's mission. Power needs to be drawn to continue through some of the next milestones. Until then, the AOA open option that was called up upon Ascent, the abort once around, is the current option, and abort to orbit option ATO will be switched to a preferred mode at the time that the solar array wings are deployed and latched. It gives the flight control team.
All right, so I was trying to listen to see if they give us a time on
update on TDRS handover for your pad.
Why it would take so long. So great question. Somebody asked why it took 3 days to get to the moon in 1969, but today it takes 10 days. We have a significantly larger spacecraft going to the moon this time.
Roger. TDRS handover east to west.
So significantly larger spacecraft, so you need more propulsion to get there. Also, we are not going to get to stay in the orbit of the moon. So when you go to lock yourself into the orbit of the moon, you actually can go under, you can use more power to get there, and the more power you use to get there, there's really no, all right, it says the solar array wings open, I didn't get that, but they do have the perigee, so right now there's an engine burn, you can see in the animation here, and that is pushing it to get it into that larger orbit that we saw in the second part of the mission. So it's that larger orbit that will take it around the Earth one more time. But a much larger orbit. So they've already orbited the Earth once. That was their first orbit right there. It took them about 20 minutes.
Towards the sun, and the solar array deployment sequence has begun.
All right, so it sounds like the solar arrays have begun to open.
It'll be several minutes until they are what is called in a latched position. Once they are latched,
I wish we could get some live stream.
They can switch the mode to ATO and
I
continue.
don't know why we're not getting any live streams directly from the
teacher's handover at the pad. That message meant
actual spacecraft.
The crew was provided some preliminary numbers of when to expect handovers between the tracking and data relay satellites. Currently orbiting Earth at an altitude of 545 statute miles.
I don't think they have any refrigerators on board because I don't think they need them. They're not going to be up there for very long. So I think they, any food or anything that they have, they're going to be eating right away. So I don't think they need any refrigerators. Refrigerators are pretty big, so can't imagine a need for one of those.
That surpasses
good question,
the range of the tracking and data relay satellites, and they will transition.
The solar arrays are opening right now. I don't know how long it's going to take. And here we have somebody asking the age-old question. There is a bathroom on board this spacecraft.
It's a momentary message you saw earlier. We're going
to pause. Oh, excuse me. We're going to quiet them for a second. They do have the bathroom on board, so there is a very uncomfortable looking bathroom. We looked at it in class today. You are welcome to Google that, but I'm not going to show it here because it's gross. And imagining how they use it, there's a whole video out there. There was I think it was one of the technicians talked all about how they did it, or how they go to the bathroom, but we're not going to talk about that anymore here. Oh boy. All right. So we got our, the burn is going on right now. Those solar wings are opening. It doesn't look like we're getting any footage from directly on board. So at the T+25, we're probably going to cut the live stream. You are welcome to jump into NASA's live stream if you want to continue watching it and watch the next couple of steps. As we get further in these steps, the checkpoints in between are going to be much further between. So it gets very, very stretched out. You know, it's like not nearly as grabbing as that launch. But again, I thank you all for joining us. That was an unbelievable launch. Huge, incredible launch. We've been waiting for this for a very long time. It got pushed back from a few months ago, and now we are here on April 1st. It was not an April Fool's joke, as everyone was presuming that it was an April Fool's joke. It is not an April Fool's joke. We are now officially in space, and we have 4 astronauts on their way to the moon for the first time since 1972. Very, very exciting stuff. So we're going to let this play out to the T+24, excuse me, 25, and then we will bring our live stream to an end. Appreciate
Again,
everybody
Commander
for
Reed
being
Wiseman and
here.
Pilot Victor Glover overseeing the deployment of the solar arrays.
Oh, there we go. So in the animation, the solar arrays are now deployed. You can see them stretched out there.
Ahead of the first burn of the ICPS engine, the perigee raise maneuver.
I'll look for it to see if they usually download information from the spacecraft. So hopefully we'll get some better footage tomorrow, and I'll show you guys in class some of the footage from onboard the spacecraft that hopefully will be downloaded afterwards, because right now it looks like they're focused on other things. And believe it or not, our live stream, as exciting as it is for me, is not the main reason they're going in space, just so Mr. Nessa can do a live stream. So, all right, I'm going to call it quits right there. T+25. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we are signing off.